Are you going to push the button and make the music happen?
Greetings. This is the Long in the Boot podcast, the podcast coming to you from the heel of the boot of Southwest Louisiana. I'm your host, G Long. Sitting across the way is Deb.
Hi, all people.
Old people?
All people.
Oh, all people.
All people.
All people.
They may be old, they may be young. All people.
We will. All are welcome.
All are welcome.
All are welcome.
That's right. So,
and you only have to cover kids' ears occasionally.
Oh, you never know.
Yeah, they slip out.
Yeah, it happens. It's just part of the conversation.
Hey, you know what?
What?
If you'd like to reach the Long in the Boot podcast, all you got to do is send an email to longintheboot@gmail.com. You can also, of course, call the number at 337-502-9011. The podcast, longintheboot.com. We actually had
I know.
Not a request.
No, a good topic idea. And it's something we've played with anyway before, but I think I have a different take on it, and we could research that. So thank you, Miss SS.
Yes, initials SS.
Yes,
unless she got married.
And if she does, I don't remember your married name.
Yeah, that. But we appreciate the input, and we will certainly look at it. And we are
because humor is the only thing that gets you through.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah, it is. Lying.
So what's been happening?
Oh, nothing much.
Hadn't seen you in so long. I was just wondering what you've been up to.
I know. And we're about to take a vacation together.
Yeah, I know.
We're going to be home for a week and a couple of days.
Yeah.
All
alone. And then the summer.
Oh, the summer. Yeah, that's
the long, hot
but that's summer. That's not a vacation.
That's
work.
Yes. Well, vacations are work too sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
But taking the grand chillin', going to do the Branson
Going to take the grands to Branson.
Yep.
I already got the place.
Silver Dollar City. I'm so excited.
I got that rate set in.
And I'm going to pretend I'm not as excited about Silver Dollar City as I was when I was a wee lad, but hey, I can't help it. Love that place.
Well, good. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
It's in my DNA.
You're taking that joy with you.
Oh, I will. It'll definitely be going with me.
That's it. That's the whole point of what I say.
And those grandkids better not ruin my experience.
Oh, they best not.
I'm telling you.
I'm going to, what would I do?
I don't know.
I would fuss.
Let them have chicken nuggets.
There you go, like a good Mimi would. All right, so
before we get into our real topic,
actually do something serious.
I just want to point. As a teacher of history,
all right,
I would like to. What's the word? Bitch about something.
Okay, shocking.
Yeah, well, I have to, and I would bitch about this no matter who's president. So just keep that in mind. First, let me just read a few headlines to kind of as an aperitif.
Okay.
From the Times Republican, MHS students fired up and ready to go for National History Day contest. How about the Newark Advocate? I love this. Licking Heights students advanced to state competition in Ohio History Day contest. Mississippi students secure spots at National History Day contest. Newspapers across the country
getting kids primed for the
National History Day contest.
How long has this national contest gone on?
It's been going on for a while. I don't have the exact number of years.
Oh, okay.
But that's okay. It's been going on for a while, and it's basically high school kids from across the country. They have a topic.
Yes, like an essay thing.
Yeah, and they're allowed to do an exhibit, do a performance, write a paper, or make a website or documentary within the confines of the theme and time period.
Okay, so some sort of media presentation.
And whoever wins in the state, of course, they go to Washington, D.C.
and get to show their wares.
And get to show their stuff. And they've been competing for this competition all year.
Okay.
And it's
Oh, like ranking, and then they're moving up, and then we get our finalists, and those are the winners that get to go.
Yeah,
they've probably been doing fundraisers and such for it too, right?
Right. It's national. It's National History Day is the actual day, and National History Day, of course, glorifies and holds on high and places on a pedestal the wonderful history of the United States.
You mean
something that is near
the
and
stuff
dear,
we've done in the past,
near and dear to my heart.
Okay.
And so, of course, the
killed.
current administration has killed every bit of funding for it.
Okay.
Now, that funding is going to save the taxpayers huge money.
How much is saved?
$336,000.
Okay.
$336,000 cut from the national budget.
And children's hopes dashed.
And yes. And
ripped away.
Yes, this was literally cut to save money. That's the reason given.
That was it.
$336,000.
Well, so really what we're saying is this is not important.
And I think
not worth that much money.
And they are currently attempting to raise the money.
Well, I was going to say, then people will get together, and because they've had to raise the money, the kids have been raising money to get to travel.
Now, this money was part of the National Endowment for the Humanities.
Oh, well, that's
that's
attached to some Kennedy Center and museum crap.
Museums, libraries, history things,
yes,
which a lot of people currently in D.C. don't seem to care for.
Not knowledge.
Or they don't like parts of it.
They don't like the knowledge.
Certain parts of history don't need to be there, even though they happened, according to many of these people.
Well, I don't like to lie to myself about what happened
If you would like to help these kids go to the National History
and
Contest,
you want to donate,
it's nhd.org/donate. They only need to raise, they've already raised more than, or about half. They need $132,000.
Oh, I think they'll probably get it because there are kind people in the world.
But this was, of course, a Doge cut amongst other parts of the National Endowment.
That is really a shame. Well, that's just part of the idea then, that you can't go in and just logically and with some sense make cuts here.
I have a solution. In honor of National History Day, the president could cut one golf weekend.
That would take care of it.
That would fund.
Actually, that would take care of it.
That would fund this contest for decades.
Okay.
According to the dollars that I'm looking at. So I'm going to go ahead and say in this case, I've got it down better than Elon.
Can you tell us what day is National History Day? Because we just had National Sibling Day, and I think Pet Day happened too, which both I missed on.
Well, I had National History Day, and now I've just lost it because, of course, I did.
Is the Google gone?
No, I had it in front of me.
Okay. Because if the Google's gone, all is lost.
Hang on.
National History Day.
By the way, National History Day has been around since 1974. That's when it was started.
Well, that's what I wanted to know.
The reason it was started was in order to get students to know more about American history.
Yeah.
And so,
because 1976 was coming and we were going to have our bicentennial, and it was going to be my happiest memory, my happiest year memory ever of my life.
And for some reason, I'm thinking it's like July 4th. I don't know why I can't.
Oh, well, that would be great to send the kids to D.C. on July 4th. No,
actually, no. It's in June.
Okay.
And why is the website not coming up now?
All right. Well, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
The audience doesn't know.
It's in June, so it's coming up pretty quick.
All right. So you'll have to get back to the audience and tell them when. Maybe you can do a post to encourage National History Day. Like look up the history and find the truth. You don't need history lies.
We don't
need history lies. In fact, that's one of the areas where we should have truth all the time. Our topic today, can we segue?
I suppose.
Okay, because I'm done with everything else. Let's just segue.
You just want to jump right into it?
I don't know. Do you want to do the history?
I was going to tell you what the theme was for the contest this year.
Okay, do tell that.
Rights and responsibilities in history.
Oh, sweet.
Is it?
Well, no, that's what you want, though, right? You want the kids knowing, and so they've done their research. They've created something.
They were supposed to study rights and responsibilities in history. Who decides who has rights? Does everyone have the same rights? Who decides on the limits individuals should or should not have, and why? What led to establishing certain rights, and to whom were they given?
Well, I understand now. They canceled it because they already have answered that question.
they've answered the question and maybe they don't want the answers.
Well, no, what I'm saying is the president of the United States has answered that question, all those questions with one word.
Me.
Yeah. It's a pronoun.
No, it's a gut.
So he's right then. We don't need to waste money on it because the answers are
already there.
Okay.
All right.
So in June.
Well, I am sure that the thousands and thousands of people who listen to our podcast will appreciate the topic this week.
We're at like 12,000 now downloads.
Hey, thousands and thousands.
Okay. Maybe not all at once, but
it is the most important podcast.
No, every politician apparently now has jumped on the podcast bandwagon. It's going to get crazy. It is crazy. It's going to get crazier.
The number of calls that I take hundreds of calls a day from people saying that.
Stop lying, because you've got to teach the history, so you're not taking damn phone calls all day. Scam Likely is the only person that calls you just like me.
A lot of people call and they tell me that it's the best podcast. Many, many people.
Just keep saying it. There you go.
Go ahead, ask me. Ask me who.
Can you name names?
They're good people. Many people.
Would you elaborate and give me a specific?
Fine, beautiful people.
Okay. All right. Now that we've established our topic.
There, that's true now.
Our topic is lies.
Yes.
Yes.
Lies.
Is it worse than ever, G?
I don't think so, actually.
No, that's what we learned.
Yeah.
Isn't that what we took away from all
I'm starting to discover that lying may just, in fact, be hardwired into us at birth.
It's who we are.
And it's what we are.
Studies on children, they
By the way, there's only one other group of animals that actually do deception with intent, primates.
Because we're so close.
And no, we're not.
It's a lie. It's a lie.
Oh, man.
Here.
So I guess first thing we got to do is nail down what a lie is.
All right.
I mean,
I mean, if you want to do that, I have like psychologically, I have all the types of lies.
No. I'm just talking about just in general, because a lot of people obviously already know.
I mean, we have
means.
White lies.
Yeah, well, we haven't even got. How about just lies itself?
All right. Get to basics, Webster.
A lie is an assertion that is believed to be false, typically used with the purpose of deceiving or misleading someone. The practice of communicating lies is called lying. A person who communicates a lie may be termed a liar. Lies can be interpreted as deliberately false statements or misleading statements, though not all statements that are literally false are considered lies, such as metaphors, hyperboles, or hyperboles, if you wish, and other figurative rhetoric are not intended to mislead, so therefore they don't qualify as lies, even though they are untrue. While lies are explicitly meant for literal interpretation by their audience, lies may also serve a variety of instrumental, interpersonal, or psychological functions for the individuals who use them.
All right.
There we go.
So that's very complex. There's a lot there. I'm not going to try to, what's the phrase, unpack it.
It's a lot.
But it's a lot. And intent has a lot to do with it.
Correct.
And think about the skill level of an individual in daily life for us to have to be able to gauge and interpret those kinds of things from somebody that we're communicating with, whether they're being satirical, whether they're being metaphoric, or, you have to pick up on all those subtleties and also be prepared for an actual damaging lie and being able to identify that, which apparently is so much.
Well, one of the studies I read from some colleges probably had its funding cut about this. Said that they did an interesting study. They took a bunch of people and they made them write down a number of the number of times they lied during a day and only gave them 3 seconds to do it. Just jot down the number of times you think you lied. It just has to be
your gut. Just go.
Go. And then they had them actually ponder a day and then keep track of how many actual untruths they told during the day. And their original estimation was wildly off. And then when they thought about it for a length of time, they came up with a higher number.
Yeah.
And then when they actually logged every untruth during the day, basically they recorded themselves the entire day, and they went back and identified every time they lied to someone.
Yeah.
And that number was astronomically higher.
And to themselves? Did they count lies to themselves?
Well, the thing recorded what they were interaction between people. And this was in a business setting.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Office setting and college setting, college classes. And so I thought it was interesting, though, that most people don't think they lie that much. And it turns out that the vast majority of people lie far more
than
they
would
think.
than they would.
And for a variety of reasons, which is kind of cool.
Yes, you do have types of lies, and when they do studies, like especially on children, because surprisingly, they hadn't the studies on children and lying didn't start really until the 1980s, before they actually started looking at young children and their capability of lying. But you have lies to protect feelings of somebody,
right? And we can get into that. We can unpack those things.
So.
One of the things about lying one of the first things they studied about lying was the consequences of lying. Mm-hmm. And this is in the modern age, because since lies often aim to deceive, you are giving something to someone as factual information, but you are in fact giving them false information.
Intentionally or unintentionally?
Well, you can't unintentionally lie.
Well, you can unintentionally give them information you deem to be factual, but it's not.
But if it's not factual, it's an opinion. So if you give them factual information,
if you think your factual
that's wrong, that's not a lie.
Well, that's my point.
But if you are actually aiming to deceive, when the deception is unsuccessful, the lie may be discovered, and the discovery of the lie discredits all other statements by the speaker previously in the mind of the person who's been lied to. Thereby, it stains the speaker's reputation. And it also can, of course, affect your social or legal standing.
Oh, obviously. Okay. I think we should go back in time, though.
The history.
Yeah. Well,
the true history.
You got headlines constantly. Wall Street lies create financial downfall. Web of lies led to murder of husband. I lied my way to the top, a Harvard grad. Just people lie all the time. And it's not worse than ever. That's really the lesson, I think.
And I thought it was interesting, but the number of lies per day has skyrocketed because of social media.
Well, yeah.
And
because that's what social media is.
Well, all conversation turns out to be lies.
And influencers, I just read that
study about the people lying, how much they do it.
You mean the kids or the
adults? The adults in the college setting with the estimations. That study took place in the 1980s.
Oh, God. So it's gotten so much worse.
Yes. And there was no social media then.
Yeah. So they weren't even doing that. It was the story now that current times it's the downfall of the influencer. I've been saying that these people can't continue to make money doing this. But when I read the story, I was surprised at how often they are lying. Like some of the things that they've been doing to get, nice hotel rooms for free so that they could pretend like this is where they live or this is where they're staying. So a lot of these businesses are like, okay, you know what? We're not giving you anything free anymore. But they would like steal fancy cars and pretend like it was theirs. Or they'd all like 6 or 7 influencers living in one really expensive place sharing that, but that's how they all film. So they just continually deceive an audience to try to get subscribers, to try to get sponsors, and they've been making a living doing it, but that heyday is over.
Well, we hope.
I hope it is on the decline. So let's say that. But again, they've created
if they do one thing with the current situation, killing social media influencers would be a great thing.
And maybe
there's I watched a documentary, a short one called Apple Cider Vinegar. I watched bits of it.
Yeah.
And it's because it came up about lying, and the number of people who have died.
Oh no!
Because when they got cancer. New age idiots told them apple cider vinegar would cure their cancer.
Oh.
Or a combination of apple cider vinegar, holistic healing, crystals.
Now see.
But wait, so all the people because hundreds of people have websites
dedicated to this information.
And first of all, apple cider vinegar, the number of people it saved is essentially zero.
Yeah.
And because like one guy said, oh, apple cider vinegar absolutely cured me. And they went, he had 10 years of chemotherapy.
But so why is he doing a website then, or trying to sell that to other people?
Well, he did a testimonial for apple cider vinegar curing him, but he neglected a lie of omission.
So it was a lie of omission, yes.
But I was
shocked. Which is an extremely common lie.
And that is still going on. You've got the people who believe that colloidal silver would cure everything, and they turned blue.
Yes, I remember that. Well,
that's lying too on a grand scale.
It is. And then for what end? mind, your motivation there to make money, but at the cost of harming people?
Yeah.
Or do you think
and I'm assuming honor doesn't play into it at all.
No, I don't think that whole idea, and I don't know if it was ever real that, you shake a man's hand and that's your word. I don't know that that's ever been a.
So I guess we'll go back. The earliest, well, we won't, it's not the earliest, obviously.
No, but Garden of Eden is.
Yeah, well.
That's where this one starts.
Yeah, I guess it is the Garden of Eden.
The Irish Times, right?
I mean, if
history tells us that people have been lying since time began.
Well, there's a point in the Bible that says that God cannot lie.
Okay.
But there are several examples in the Bible of God deliberately causing enemies to become disoriented and confused with lies in order to provide victory for Israel.
All right.
There's bunches of passages in the Bible featuring exchanges that assert lying is immoral and wrong.
And yet?
However, there's a lot of examples in the Old Testament especially about, for instance, Abraham instructed his wife Sarah to mislead the Egyptians that she was in fact his sister when she wasn't.
Okay.
She was his half-sister, but it was intentionally misleading because it was designed to lead the Egyptians to believe that Sarah was not Abraham's wife.
So maybe God doesn't, but he approves of it.
Yes.
He sanctions it.
Well, and they call, of course, Satan is referred to as the father of lies.
Yes. So
but that's in the New Testament.
So it begins with that idea that it's a sin and it is bad.
And in that vein, we have, of course, St. Augustine, Augustine of Hippo. He actually wrote books about lying. He's one of the first people to actually sit down and write a book about lying. Well, because,
again, it was so prevalent.
It must have been.
I know it was.
And his book, one was called On Lying, and the other one was called Against Lying. And Augustine divided his lies into 8 categories in order of descending severity.
Okay.
So number 1 is the worst.
Is the heart, yeah.
Lies in religious teaching.
Yes.
Number 1.
Yes.
Lies that harm others and help no one.
That's your soul. You're lying to somebody about their everlasting and their relationship with their Lord.
Right. And okay, so lies that harm others and help no one. That's number 2. Number 3, lies that harm others and help someone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Lies told for the pleasure of lying.
Just for the
joy.
Yeah, it is a thrill, apparently, according to Psychology Today.
Lies told to groups of others in smooth discourse.
Yes, and those are political lies.
And then finally, we have the last 3, which are the least damaging: lies that harm no one and help someone materially, lies that harm no one and that help someone spiritually, and finally, lies that harm no one and that protect someone from bodily defilement.
Oh.
So, for instance.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's touch on that one.
If you tell somebody, dude, you don't want to go out with her, man, she's got an STD. That's a lie that you're trying to protect your buddy from bodily defilement.
Yes, but you don't know. Well, wait, what was the lie? You don't want to go out with her, or the fact that you
don't want him to go, see her. So
why? Because you want her?
No, because she has STD.
But does he know that for sure?
Well, I don't know that for sure. It's a lie.
Was that the lie?
No,
so he was protecting
laying down with her without being in the proper bounds of matrimony is a sin. I am trying to help him.
All right.
I'm actually covering like 2 here, the spiritually part 2.
Oh, you're saving his soul as well.
I'm doing it out of a place of goodness.
Liar. Well, scripture says every man is a liar. So from the Middle Ages past the Renaissance, that people just,
And by the way, Augustine also said that if you tell a lie in jest as a joke, it's still a lie, buddy.
And you're still
because humor it's not good. You shouldn't lie.
Well, see, there's part of the humor thing. Because not everywhere in the world finds humor in things. Not every culture has a sense of humor.
No, English is actually the big makers of the modern satire.
But I think
French actually did satire.
I was going to say, I think that comes from the French. I think that we took what they did and wit and all such.
And still in the ancient. We got to stick with the ancient for a minute.
Oh, do you?
Oh, yeah. You got to do Buddhist.
All right.
Because, but basically, a breach of it says the 4th of the 5 Buddhist precepts involve falsehoods spoken or committed in action. Avoiding other forms of wrong speech is considered part of this precept. A breach of the precept is considered more serious if the falsehood is motivated by an ulterior motive rather than a small white lie. The trick is in Buddhist texts is to always be honest, to always have honor. And lying is not only to be avoided because it harms others, but because it goes against the ideal of finding truth.
Of you trying to find enlightenment, trying to be the
Truth.
best you.
Yes.
And, well, I wonder then, considering balance, do you have a balance of truth and lie?
Oh, I was going to say, do I have a balance to that idea?
Yes.
Yes. Norse, the Vikings.
All right. What did they think?
When dealing with a false foe who lies, you must tell lies back.
You sink to his level. You don't
right.
search for enlightenment, bitch.
Absolutely not. So those are some of the ancient versions.
Well, and
I have Aristotle and Plato.
You wonder why we're all so different. Actually,
Plato encouraged lying if it
for rhetoric
bettered the Republic. If it bettered the Republic.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I like French skeptic Pierre Charon. I want that job. How do you become a skeptic?
I was born that way.
I know, right?
I'm sorry.
It's a job. This guy had it as a job. Well, he was writing in the late 16th century. He said, observe how all mankind are made up of falsehood and deceit, of tricks and lies, how unfaithful and dangerous, full of disguise and design, all conversation is at present, but especially how much more it abounds near the prince and how the hypocrisy reigns.
Well, that fits.
So that's the courtly stuff. That goes back to the Machiavelli.
Well, the 12th century English courtier, Bishop of Chartres, John of Salisbury,
you have to lie in
feared
court.
no time had ever been more dangerous for men of honest virtue. According to John, the royal and ecclesiastical courts of Europe teemed with every sort of deceiver and falsifier and wheedler and gift givers and actors and mimics and gossip mongers. The only thing that surpassed the variety was their number, for the foul inundation of their cancerous disease seeps into all, so there is rarely anyone left uncontaminated.
Exactly. So if you're going to run, if you're going to run in those circles, you're going to get Mar-a-Lago face.
Well, yeah. and by the way, Scripture also says, and John quoted it, was the Bible does say, every man is a liar.
Yes, I know. I told you. I told you Scripture said that.
Yes, every man.
Oh, so women don't lie.
But lying became almost like an art form.
Well, yes, that's the whole point in court that you hear. English Renaissance writer Nathaniel Walker said in The Refined Courtier, we must demean ourselves acceptably before our superiors without appearing willing to lick the very spittle from under their feet.
Nice.
So you have to be constructive in your lying and flattery. You have to plan these conspiracies and coups, and it's a chess game of verbal. It's a verbal chess game.
Well, and they actually divide it off too. Like that's the Renaissance, right? Mm-hmm. It stops with the French Revolution, this new art form of lying.
Yes.
I would assume the French Revolution, part of it was because your head came off.
Cut that off. Yeah, exactly. Well, because it had grown to such a level, I guess, of deception and this is the question today in modern times, right? At what point, can we get past and trust again if all we're ever told are lies?
Which has been the problem for however long.
Well, and is that the point of the French Revolution then, or is that the cut of the jib?
Well, but after the French Revolution began and Robespierre and those guys took over, they lied as well.
It started again because it's in our nature.
Yeah.
It's who we are.
And they were doing it to hang on to power and to also perpetuate the revolution. They thought the revolution wasn't done, that it needed to not only spread beyond the borders of France, but that every single individual who was against the revolution, i.e. Robespierre at that point, had to be killed. No, it wasn't, they can't say that. It was literally cut off their heads so they can't say that anymore.
We're not going to let them say that.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely insane.
But we have to have moral principles to guide our actions. I mean,
but nobody ever comes out in favor of lies. It's like, yes, lie as much as possible. It just doesn't happen.
I don't know. So it's not the ethics of Aristotle. It's the rhetoric of Cicero. I mean, we can't be ethical.
What was the thing? During the Middle Ages, so the story goes, every lie was prohibited, which is different than claiming no one lied. We always have and always will do all sorts of things we shouldn't. Whereas during the Renaissance, people became a bit more realistic about what it takes to get on in the world.
To get by, yes. How are we going to move forward? Well, we're going to have to lie.
Then it seems as if it just kept going. And it's hard to find anything about are lies ever okay? You know, I mean, that's one of those things. Theologians would say, no, you can never lie.
Well, no, and that's it. In the medieval times, they argued that you have to lie to protect yourself or the state. But the theologians said, no, look, a civil society depends on the fact that we are assuming we're dealing with each other truthfully and honestly. And if we start to say some lies are acceptable, then that was my point, too, is how can you ever then trust anyone when you sign a contract, when you make a promise? It undermines everything that we are as a civil society.
Why do we have contracts?
Well, we have them legally so that somebody can't just shake your hand and lie to your face and not do what they said they were going to do.
Because we freeze the terms on paper. We literally stop the ability to lie once it's written down.
Once it's written down.
You can say that's not what I meant.
Then I'm going to bring it back to the modern times because I wanted to end with something now or the future.
Well, we're not ending.
No, but it's the idea then that we have technology now.
Oh,
so
yes.
A piece of paper with that information and somebody has a copy of it and they have that in their file and I have it in my file and the person I signed with has it in their file. But now it's digital. Ooh. I don't have that piece of paper. Everything is in the computer.
Go down the memory hole.
And then what? Exactly. What if we don't have the future then leaves everything
And
open.
The crazy thing is now you can hear a lie today, look up what was said, find that it is in fact a lie.
Exact thing that lied.
And when you point it out,
nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Because they already have in their head which one of those two statements they want to believe or remember, and they're not going to change their mind.
Yeah. So that's where we are. So was lying worse then? I'm pretty sure it wasn't.
No. Oh, no. It's like, so next time somebody's railing about some lying politician, we know the prominence of lying in our society. And maybe rather just worry less about the fact that everyone is lying, but really bother with why are they lying?
Yes. What is it within us that makes us lie?
Or what is it that they have to gain by their lie?
Because if you think about it, human beings really are the only ones who can do this because we have spoken language.
Contemplate and and it's not just spoken language because you reveal your lies with body language, with face.
Although, as we learned
about the kids.
Well, about the kids and about reading body language in general.
Yes.
Because
it's hard to find out when they're lying.
Yeah.
You can see when somebody's
criminal minds,
sad.
They know immediately when somebody's lying because they twitch or whatever. It turns out that that's actually not a very good science.
No.
And people think it is. They've been convinced by media that there are these people out there who can look at somebody who's lying and know it immediately. And it turns out that that's really not the case. There are people who are better at it than others.
Yes, like the ones who they're gamblers, they play poker for a living and that.
They turn out to be actually some of the best at figuring out when a person doesn't have a good hand and is acting like they do or whatever. But you remember too, the other person is also in on the game.
Yeah.
So if I have a tell, let's say, and I have a tell that it's a bad hand, and I don't know, tug my earlobe. Well, it works just the same way if I have a good hand and tug my earlobe. And then that guy goes, he has a bad hand.
Yes.
See, so the lie is mutual. So it is different there because both people are active in attempting to deceive others.
Yes.
But as far as because of criminal minds, again, I go back to that because they do it so quickly because they only have a certain amount of time to solve the crime.
They've got 30 minutes to solve this serial killer.
It's like they know every time.
Yes.
They're never fooled. It's like, oh, he seems tense. Oh, he's lying. It turns out that those guys are not 100%.
Well, no.
Not even close.
Look, technology now tells us that fingerprints aren't 100% either.
Yeah, and we know that polygraph tests aren't 100%.
So now does that call into question every single person that's ever been convicted based on fingerprint evidence?
Not really. I read the statistics.
Did you?
Yeah, and the odds are still way against being wrong about fingerprints.
Yeah.
And now AI can actually look deeper into fingerprints and get rid of that error.
So modern technology will help clear up that kind of testing, and they'll get a better read.
Basically, AI is arguing, no, it is 100% different. You just have to be able to look at it in a way that you can't, stupid human.
We're more sophisticated, and we can do that. Well, and then that brings to question lie detector tests, right?
Well, they don't work.
They don't, but they can tell somebody that you're skilled at lying, that you're able to control, like, because they'll question you on things and have you lie purposely so they can gauge your
Well, it turns
reaction.
out that sociopaths are really great.
They are, and so then that leads me to question why. What was it? The Department of Defense. One of the agencies recently was lie detector testing all bunches of their employees.
Homeland Security.
Yeah,
Kristi Noem.
And it was the low level groups that they were testing, like 50 different people. One of them at least was fired.
But remember what they were testing. In this particular instance, they were testing loyalty to the president, not the Constitution.
The
president.
And if they had given any information out to the press, they're pretty sure somebody leaked something to someone, and they wanted to test that. So one person for sure got fired. At least 50 were given a lie detector test, and like I said, at least one was fired for that.
Yeah.
So they failed. I mean,
but it's a loyalty test.
Yes.
It's a freaking loyalty test.
With a lie detector equipment all attached to you. Like they said, these are all low-level people, and they're just really creating an feeling of fear here.
Yeah. How about this?
The whole point.
Let me hook her up, and we'll find out if she actually murdered her dog.
Or if she lied in the book for what? Why would you...
Well, she murdered her dog.
I know. Okay. I don't want to
Well, what I'm saying is she claims that she had to. I don't believe it.
Okay. Well,
so
if we won't admit
lie detector test.
If we won't take lie detector test information as, proof in a case, then what good is it to fire somebody with that? Isn't that just a lawsuit waiting to happen?
No. Because they're not gonna win.
You don't think they'll pursue it because they won't win.
Yeah.
So just carry yourself on and go find another job.
Well, it'll happen. I mean, it's already happened. 2 people today or yesterday lost their Supreme Court case to be reinstated at their jobs.
Yeah, that's true. And I don't know honestly why you'd want to go back.
True. Well, they were suing because their contract says they cannot be fired unless they do something wrong in office. Yes. Basically. And the courts had sided with them, but the Supreme Court said that they're going to restudy the issue, but currently they can still be fired.
Okay.
So, we'll see.
Yeah. Okay.
So back to lying.
It's kind of what we were doing.
Yeah, it's kind of what we were doing.
Kind of. Did you want to talk about the kids?
I do. We got to talk about the kids.
Okay. I left my papers in the other room.
What?
I had something in the other room, and I got to go get it.
All right. Go ahead. While Deb is gone, I'm going to change the room around, and she won't know. When she comes back, she'll think she's going mad. I will also lower her chair and raise her desk. And welcome back. You let a dog in.
What?
You let a dog in.
Oh, did I?
You did.
Oh.
I heard her.
Well, if she can keep her yappy self quiet.
I don't know. She is a lie detector.
She is like a little lie detector.
It's not safe to have her around.
That's her job. That is literally what that little Chihuahua Jack Russell does.
She told me about that burner phone you have.
She did not. She doesn't know anything about anything. Nothing. Crazy kid. Okay, so children, how inherent is it in us to lie?
Well, it starts pretty dang early.
It does start young.
But think about American history for a minute, even though we're not going to have the contest probably. Think about what we get when we were little kids. We get shoehorned immediately that George Washington story, right?
Yes, and we don't believe that.
No, we don't believe it. But why do we tell the story? It's not it's not a thing you're supposed to believe anyway. When you get older, it's
like
BS.
All, fables and legends to help us act right.
Yes.
Don't lie. But parents teach us how to lie. Baby, you just tell your granny that you like that gift. You tell her you like that sweater, okay? Because you don't want to hurt her feelings. You teach them to lie.
Right away.
And they know how to do it by 2.
Well, That's the really scary part.
That is.
I thought it was interesting that I thought it was interesting that different societies have different views of lying, but in the end, all societies, for the most part, just accept it as a fact. But the tests that they've done with children tend to cross ethnic lines.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And some gender differences, girls maybe a little different than boys, but overall, pretty much the same.
Yeah. So let's just kind of break them down, I guess. Lying to protect the feelings of another.
Yes. And
you use the example of the Christmas present for the grandma.
Yeah.
And so when we're doing that, we're teaching kids how to adapt socially. So we've now taught this girl that it's better to lie than it is to hurt the feelings of another person.
Yes.
Now, was it only because of it was her grandma, or is it just in general? Because the child's going to learn that that's the norm.
Yeah.
And of course, we also we tend to forget that kids are watching us all the time.
Absolutely.
And if we're lying all the time, they're picking it up.
And they know, yeah. In that study with the gift, 98 children between 3 and 7 of that 89% lied and said they liked it.
But the facial expressions of the ages were interesting with that problem.
Oh, the 3 to 7 year olds?
Well, the 2-year-old had a sad face, even though she said, I really like the gift.
Yeah,
she had a sad face.
Yeah, the grandma should have known.
The 5-year-old is kind of like, yeah, okay, I like the gift.
But the older child, the 7,
kids are smiling. Yeah, it's real big. Hey.
Well, but the 11% who told the truth, their facial expressions were similar to the ones the 89% who lied. Like they managed to put on that face and get away with the lie.
Yep.
So they're skilled at polite deception.
Well, they are, and they start so young.
Well, I know.
I think that's the thing that kind of blows my mind.
Well, the one that they did with kids peeking, whether they would look like they leave them in a room and tell them not to peek at this gift that's behind them.
That's a fun one.
And they leave them alone for 5 minutes. This is lying to avoid punishment.
Yep.
Is what they were testing. And out of that group, 2.5-year-olds at 2.5, they were lying to avoid punishment already.
What they did is they took kids, and it's a fun study. They took kids of various ages, but they took them and they told them to look forward, and somebody came in behind them and put a toy, and they knew this. They told the kids, they put a toy and hid it from the child under a box, and then said, now you are not to turn around and look at the toy. And after they set the toy up, the experimenter says, oh, I have to step out for just a moment.
And leaves them
I'll be right back.
for 5 minutes.
Don't peek at the toy.
Yeah.
We'll play with it when I come back. And of course, younger children are more unable to not peek.
Yes, of course.
Because they got to know. But that's our curiosity as human beings, right?
Yes.
And then when they come back in, they go, did you peek? And of course, everything was videotaped. And it turns out that most children of a young age violate the rule.
Well, yeah. Obviously. And, 38% admitted to peeking. 38% said they didn't peek. And 24% just didn't even answer.
I like that one.
Just didn't even do a thing.
I've learned from TV not to answer questions.
So 62% of the kids between 2.5 and 3 deceived in some way. Facial and body activity didn't differentiate between the truth tellers and the deceivers. So they had already learned to lie fairly successfully by 2.5.
They got the picture, and I know this is a podcast, but there's a picture of a little boy that looks so freaking guilty. He's the face of every little boy who's ever lied to his parents. Speaking of lies to parents, our child had one good one. Remember that? We gave him the sandwich and told him to eat it.
Oh, yes.
And we turned around
and wouldn't let him do something until he ate his sandwich.
His sandwich. We had a friend visiting, and we turned around. He'd finished the sandwich. Like, you finished your sandwich? He goes, uh-huh. Okay, well, I guess you can go outside. And then our friend started cackling after he left. And I was, what? He goes, look behind your stereo. And look behind the stereo, there's half a sandwich.
He was 3. Yeah, he went outside and enjoyed himself. And And we didn't say anything.
No, I let him get away with that.
We let him get away with that lie.
Yeah, because you should be able to get away with a lie occasionally. Otherwise, you're going to have a hard time in life.
Well, and that's the thing. They looked at this. Age-related changes in lying are in, Japan, Africa, Chinese, all children that lie to avoid punishment is universal. And so what's to say? Of course, we're going to do it as adults.
Absolutely.
We're not going to stop doing it. It's a successful technique.
Because, and we know, like, for instance, in courtroom proceedings, when you swear to tell the truth, obviously you can't.
The whole truth and nothing but
lie.
the truth.
Once you do that, you can't lie.
Now,
you can't do it.
Now, you also have your own self-deception. We haven't even talked about the idea that we lie to ourselves.
Lying to oneself.
All the time.
Self-deception's the best one.
Well, and I think it's one of the most damaging. Other than
let me read the example.
Okay.
Benjamin calls a woman for a date and is told she can't see him because she's busy for the next 3 weekends. He now has a choice. He can conclude she does not want to go out with him and feel humiliated and shamed, or he can conclude he doesn't want to date such a busy woman. This spares him the shame and humiliation. In fact, both thoughts pass through his mind, but he remembers only that he doesn't really want to go out with her anyway.
Yes. So that's how he
That's a perfect lie to yourself.
Because it's a coping skill.
Sure.
It's a coping technique.
When somebody today gets ghosted on the internet by somebody they thought they liked.
Yeah. And then they just say to themselves, well, I never liked him anyway. He did this and I didn't like that. So it wasn't going to work.
And so they started doing studies on kids to learn about self-deception. And it was a good old Piaget who kind of kept this thing going. Young in the studies, 15 to 24-month-olds demonstrate that pretend play is related to personal pronouns and to mirror self-recognition. Now, because of that, we start to see that they start imitating people around them.
Yes, and behaving like them.
So children deceive themselves. When they have a pretend friend, they are literally deceiving themselves into believing that there is a friend there. And some kids get so locked into it, they don't actually can't deal with the idea of the pretend friend not being there. I often wonder if that's just that inner voice we all have being developed.
You mean our own narrative?
Well, because we all do it. We have this other us in our heads.
Yeah. Well, it's not other. It is us. It's just our voice telling.
Why can't it be a completely separate personality in your head that we've learned to control? And other people can't, and they have a split personality. Like severed. Well, look at those people. Talk about self-deception.
Yeah.
You're removing the ability.
And intentionally having it done.
Yeah. Allowing
it to be done in order to cope.
So you don't remember anything from either work or your regular life, depending on which one you're in at the time. And so that's a form of imposed
you have
self-deception.
To stop. That's like Black Mirror shit, and I can't deal with that. So we're gonna have to put that away.
Is that what we're gonna have to do?
Yes, we can't do that. So, there's always a seed of truth though in the things that we don't want to say to ourselves. You have to. Well, you deal with it a little at a time so you can grow. If you don't deal with it at all, like you've been lying to yourself about something, maybe you get a friend to tell you their observation, and maybe they tell you something you don't like, but you take it, you mull over it, you meditate on it, and then you come back later and go, I didn't want to see that, but yeah, maybe that's true. That's a healthy person.
Yes.
That deals with that.
Well, by the age of 3, a child's ability to maintain internal rules and goals allows him to consider the success or failure of his behavior and things he says, and even to apportion blame or credit. Now, here's where it gets fun. Why do we lie? The things we lie about: embarrassment, shame, guilt, pride, financial gain, whatever. This new ability that children develop allows for the emergence of the self-conscious emotions of embarrassment, shame, guilt, and pride, which, of course, give kids motivation to lie. To lie
in order to gain something.
So I think that's kind of interesting.
So it is part of who we are.
Yeah, I think it is.
And our development.
It's part of our brain development.
And our successes and failures often hinge around whether we recognize, okay, that didn't work, so maybe I won't do that. Because ultimately, if you lie all the time, if you're like a compulsive liar, then you're not going to have friends. You're going to ruin every relationship you have, because you can't build trust. And with somebody that you know is lying all the time.
Well, and that's the thing. So our national debate, we have a national debate going on now. We've had it going on for years.
Oh, yeah,
it's about
it's
whether
a constant
federal or state
conversation.
agencies are lying to us, which is part of the larger discussion of which morality of lying is pitted against its evolutionary function and its pro-social needs. Lying is a social need.
It's a construct that we use to get by, yes, to get by and to get forward.
But we've seen already, though, that lying is usually seen as a failure, a personal failure, when you have to lie because it damages trust, right? In a relationship, one of our most commonly human things. Yet, lying to protect the feelings of another appears a necessary act.
For society to work and for
Right.
relationships to work.
So it creates actually a conflict within us.
Okay, but if we don't, okay, so what if it's our institutions lying to us and we catch them in that lie, but then there's no consequence?
And there is no consequence.
And there is no consequence. We can't, I don't know how we create a consequence for, the lie that we were told when we signed our promissory note for our student loan.
Correct.
That if you're part of this program, this public service program,
length of time,
and you pay
your
for
loan,
this many
the rest of your loan is
years,
forgiven.
and
they didn't.
they didn't do that.
And yeah,
I mean,
that
ultimately it happened, but we paid.
and it was written down.
It was in paper. Yes, we had signed, and it was 7 years past the date that should have ended.
Yes.
For us, and yet we continued to pay for an extra 7 years.
And literally couldn't get anything done about it.
No, at less than 2% of the people who were in that program at the point
received what they were supposed to
where
receive.
Joe Biden and did all that.
So you can hate Joe Biden if you want to,
but
I'm going to give him
that program.
He at least honored the agreement that I signed originally.
Yes.
And
because otherwise they had just lied to us.
Yes.
And we paid a good deal more than we were supposed to.
Well,
agreeing that we were going to be
7 years
public
of $500 a month. So you can do the math if you want. I'm not gonna.
That was the point. We had been lied to, and it was very, disheartening to know that our federal institutions had lied about that.
Correct.
When I went and worked in the schools, and what about the firemen? What about the police? That there are other people who had those loans and were in the same situation.
Right.
So, either way, if there's no consequence for your institutions lying to you, your politicians, the people you elect, okay, well, there is a consequence. We don't reelect.
That should be a consequence.
That should be a consequence.
Yes,
Okay.
it should be.
Well, it's going to be the populace of the people are fickle. I just don't know any other way to say that, but the people are fickle.
Well, and it several of the articles I read talked about attempting to force children to always tell the truth. Almost always backfires.
It's harmful.
It ends up causing harm.
Yes, it's going to be harmful.
So you've met people like that. I've met people like that. Everybody has.
And they don't often have a sense of humor.
They usually don't have a sense of humor, and I always speak my mind no matter what.
Yes.
Yeah, but sometimes you don't need to speak at all.
I've had those conversations with young people, especially when they start working in the work world. I said, your conflicts are arising because you're not tempering your personality. I am who I am. I'm going to be that. This is how I am at home. I said, yeah, but people at home love you.
Yeah.
The people that you go work with at X don't have to care for you at all, and they're going to fire you. So you do need to learn to temper yourself.
Well, we all have an office personality.
I think young people got that much sooner. I think now they're getting it later in life. It takes them going into the work world to finally realize, I can't be an ass all the time.
Well, I think we should just put all these young people in the coal mines that we're opening.
That's it.
Again, I'll say it and I'll say it again.
To go pick crops.
If my 5-year-old wants to pick coal or grow crops, that is their right as an American.
Well, I did see that they found thousands of children ages 1 to 5 who were receiving unemployment, and that was my first thought: is like, dear God, what do you have to do as a 5-year-old to get laid off and apply for unemployment? I know we've making them work, but damn,
he grew too big for the spindle turner on the power loom.
Sweep.
Yeah, he doesn't fit in the modern chimney anymore. You know how they do that? They take a little kid and they just stick him on the end of a stick. And they just shove them down into
there.
Oh yeah.
Like the stick when you're doing a cannon.
It's like a well, in a way, it's sort of like a Q-tip.
You got to get a smaller kid.
It's like a Q-tip for the chimney.
Tiny,
and you just use a body.
Okay, stop.
They hate that.
They don't like it. They scream a lot.
They do.
Okay, stop. That's probably too much.
But they do develop a fine English Cockney accent
And black lung,
and black lung disease.
which they're going to get again.
Hey,
Coal mines reopening.
well, but think about it. It's going to bring back music.
Oh, working at the coal mines.
You bet.
Yeah. There's always a music attached.
We need some new blues. We'll just get a coal mine and work a while. You'll get the blues. Well, you saw one of the people in the administration that said, "Look, you could give these people a penthouse apartment in Manhattan and give them a different job, a good job." And they're not going to like it. They're going to hate it. They want to dig coal.
He did say that. They want to be in the mines.
And I'm not lying.
No,
He actually said it.
As long as the print article we read was correct.
That's an example of someone who should have lied.
Yes. Don't say what you think.
But the truth wants to come out.
Okay, so let's circle back now to the future because this is scary to me.
Yeah.
Well, when you're thinking about lying, right? After the other day when we had the crisis in the market and then the crisis was averted and everybody that was in the market and held on made shit tons of money. Okay.
True.
So,
well, no, they didn't really.
Well, a few people did.
If you knew what you were doing, yeah.
A few people did.
And if you were selling short, you made money.
Well, recently the Bank of England has pointed out a crisis a point that profit could be made and there could be banking crises created by AI. So now that AI has learned that manipulating the market intentionally and creating a crisis can boost profits for banks and traders, the Bank of England has been warned about this possibility because as AI gets better and learns, it's going to lie and create a crisis in
market volatility.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, then how can we even trust the market? You know, I still have questions about digital voting booths. I don't know how we as society trust that the digital aspect of that is being honorably manipulated.
So that's the direction that we have to wonder.
Yes. So now we're dealing, like I said, I don't want to watch the new season of Black Mirror because I think we're already living all of this shit and it's scary.
And what does it say for ethics?
Yes, AI is not ethical.
No, it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't need to be. There's no emotion there.
But remember, AI is just the sum total of all human experience and words, right?
And our lives.
So it knows
that we lie.
It must be able to lie.
Yes.
And you can't. There's no ability to know if an AI is lying.
This all started with that damn article about the speeches, and we hadn't even talked about it.
Which speeches?
The when they did the study over all those from the 1800s all the way to now, 18,000 speeches, and how the language is no longer factual at all.
Right.
It peaked in the 70s.
It
and
appeals
now
to feelings.
All political speeches by all
Congress,
and they're all feeling. All they use are emotion words.
Yeah.
So nobody tries to further their cause with anything except feelings.
That's true. Good or bad, however you agree or disagree, the feelings are the key. I can remember years and years ago.
And why did that peak in the 70s?
I don't.
And then we just began to get emotional after that.
Because we all felt so bad? No, seriously. Vietnam had ended. Our president had resigned.
The hostages.
Interest rates were through the roof. Our hostages got taken. We were feeling really bad as a nation.
After
but
76.
Weirdly, Ronald Reagan, for the most part, was pretty good at being straightforward.
He was. I felt like he was fairly straightforward and honest. And
I know a lot of people will say, "Oh, blah, blah, blah."
Well, he was about making money. I mean, that
sure.
The Reagan era was.
Show me a politician that's not. I mean, honestly.
Well, truthfully, verily, you say.
Verily, I say.
Machiavelli said, occasionally words must serve to veil the facts, but let this happen in such a way that no one become aware of it.
I like what, actually I could probably end the show with George Washington's little comment here.
Get down, Bella.
And he didn't lie.
No, George Washington never lied. That's why the ladies loved him, right?
Because we can pretty much wrap it up for this episode of lying. I
do believe. You're going to end with George?
I think I will.
It's either George or Machiavelli.
So just let me know, George, since it's National History Day coming up.
Yes, there you go.
This was his farewell address, by the way. This is part of his farewell address when he decided to step down after 2 terms because he didn't want there to be a tradition of whoever's the president to stay the president.
To stay there, yeah.
And this quote stuck out. Often a small but artful and enterprising minority of the community are likely to become potent engines by which cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men will be enabled to subvert the power of the people and to assert for themselves the reins of government.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
All right.
And that's George.
Thank you, George.
Yeah.
Well, audience, your joy, it's portable. You got to bring it with you. And what I'm going to say is if you're telling a lie, make it for good.
There you go.
Only lie for good.
Lie for good. Lie for positive change.
Our audience is smart. They can take that as they will.
And we would not lie about any of that.
Not at all.
Y'all have a good 2 weeks.
See you later.